were you saying?
Okay.
Forget where we were.
So for this episode, we watched 2 Best Picture nominees for the 2023-2024 Oscars. I'm not really sure what the year thing is. We watched The Holdovers and Anatomy of a Fall. And we're talking about The Holdovers first. I think that The Holdovers is an interesting choice for a Best Picture nominee because Anatomy of a Fall is very heady and, dramatic and French. So, that makes sense for a Best Picture nominee. But The Holdovers is a weird sort of, it feels like a Christmas movie, and it's very cozy and sweet. And the whole time, it just feels like a very comforting, feel-good sort of experience. And
that was the cool thing about it, is it was like a throwback to, it made you want to feel like you're a kid watching a Christmas movie with your family on the box television.
Yeah.
Except it's like an adult upgrade of that.
Right, because they say the fuck word, and they also...
Because they say the fuck word and
there's
sex.
Yeah, they talk about sex, and Paul Giamatti, you have to imagine Paul Giamatti having sex, and you're like, ew.
But that was cool. It gave it a really unique tone because it does feel cozy, especially in the beginning. I was ready to love this movie because it looks just like where I grew up with the red brick buildings and the snow and people shoveling their cars and stuff in New England. It was just felt so. Took me right back to childhood, like it was trying to do.
Yeah,
that was great. And it has that kind of baseline tone of kind of whimsical, Christmassy thing, but then it introduces those more real life dark elements into it. So it was like an adult update.
It really was a very interesting movie, I think, tonally, because I don't really know what I was expecting going in, but with the old film grain that was kind of overlaid the whole thing, I think it was definitely shot on film, which made it gave it that kind of throwback nostalgic feel. But I also thought it was interesting that there was no really famous actors in it. Paul Giamatti was there. But I heard that the guy who plays Angus, the main kid in the movie, was not a known actor before he started being he was in the movie. His school that they were shooting on, they just put out an audition for the kids who were already at the school, and he just auditioned and got in that way. So this is his first film. This is his first movie. Yeah. So it's just,
I guess that's a good segue because I liked Paul Giamatti. I think that Divine, the black woman, kind of stole it. She was really good.
Yeah.
In this movie. Yeah, because Paul Giamatti's it's the character he's playing, but I feel like he's also kind of hamming it up a bit. He's very
cartoonish,
stringent, overly. Yeah, he's kind of cartoonish, but that also goes with the tone. But so it's a little harder to connect with him. But the heart of the movie is kind of Divine, or Mary, because she plays it so she's really warm, but you can also just feel how sad she is the whole movie.
She plays grief incredibly well. The scene with at the Christmas party where she's in the kitchen and Angus brings Paul Giamatti in, that scene was huge for her.
That was so good. Yeah, because people, I feel like whenever I see people play drunk, it's kind of cringy too because they're going too hard, but she played it perfectly. You could tell that she was really drunk, but also just really sad, and it was the perfect level for that. But she totally kind of stole the show. And I was gonna say Angus Tully kind of the weakest, noticeably weaker than the other two. Obviously Paul Giamatti's been acting for 50 years or whatever, and Mary Divine was great, and he was really trying, but he felt stage actory, and he really went too hard on his lines, delivered them like a stage reading or something. I don't know. It wasn't great. What do you think of that?
Him playing that kind of over the top made sense for his character, because his character's a kid, and I think that Angus is also very emotionally stunted, And so I think that him playing up sort of how he's feeling and, not really having, because he's never really expressed any of these feelings before, because he's never really had the space to do that, because his mom's absent. His dad is literally like absent, both in his mind and also in his presence, because he's in this facility. And so having Paul Giamatti be like a good sounding board for him for the first time to kind of like work through some of these emotions, I think is really a first for him. And so him being able to kind of get that all out in a very raw and like kind of over the top way, I think worked for me. And so that made sense.
Okay, you didn't really, his acting wasn't a problem for you.
No, I think that, I mean, the only scene that I think
it wasn't like terrible.
Yeah. The only scene that I think that it may just seem like less quality acting because he's up against two titans and the other two core actors of the film. So, like Paul Giamatti's the character is kind of cartoonish, but he plays it so well.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, like that's definitely part of it, is that the other performances are so good.
Yeah.
That I did notice it, and it did take me out of a couple of scenes, but it's not terrible.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? I do like. I mean, the dynamic between him and Paul Giamatti is great, though.
Yeah, they had like a really good chemistry together that I really appreciated seeing. And their whole like road trip Boston sequence is so good. And there's such like long takes. I feel like that in this movie, there's a lot of like really long one-ers of like just going around, and they just really added to like the world building. The whole like chase sequence where he's running around and Paul Giamatti is chasing him and getting winded. Like that was really funny.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And then like when he hurts himself and then he goes to the hospital, and Paul, like you see, I forget his character's name, but you see like kind of his sympathy for him, for Angus in that moment when like he's getting his arm like put back in the socket, and it's like really graphic and scary. Like I really appreciated seeing him.
I looked away for that.
Yeah, well, because it was really like scary almost. So I thought that was really a good way to sort of endear the characters to one another, because they had that sort of like experience together. They both were like, we have to lie about this. We can't let anyone know that this happened.
Yeah, so it's like a feel good Christmassy thing, but it's also really sad at the end, because the whole thing, I mean, the dynamic is great, but the whole thing is like Paul Giamatti kind of realizes that he's wasted his life.
Yeah.
So he sees Angus and he's like, this kid's actually really smart. Yeah. I'm going to make sure he doesn't make the same mistakes that I did. And at the end he gets fired, and you're like, I guess Paul Giamatti is like not going to get better. Like it's too late for him. Well, so it's kind of sad.
I was going to say, do you think that the ending was sad? Because I think that the ending of Paul Giamatti getting fired from and having to leave Dalton, I thought that was actually like, in a way, like probably one of the better things that could have happened to him, because he was clearly wasting his life at Dalton. Everybody hated him there. Like he was just kind of being like an asshole the whole time because he was so sour about his life. So I think that like him getting sort of like forced out of Dalton and forced to expand his comfort zone in the way that Angus had been kind of challenging him to do throughout the movie was a good thing, I think, in the end. And so him getting to work on his book and explore the world more, I think, is a positive outcome for the story.
I think it's supposed to be contextualized as this is the new chapter in his life.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just too cynical, but I was just thinking like, damn, Paul, you're like 68 and nobody likes you, and you're moving in with like your friend now. So best of luck to you. But I was a little sad at the end. Like,
yeah. Well, he has like a weird charm to him that seems to work on that one teacher that was like, you're really cool. And then has like a boyfriend that she's like macking on at the Christmas party.
Oh yeah, that was weird. He's like, you think it's going to be... I guess that's another kind of, it's supposed to be Christmassy, happy-go-lucky, and then the realness comes in like, oh, she was just, you think it's going to be the romance, and then, oh, she's just being nice.
Yeah.
And she has a husband, and he's like, well, I guess I'm going to be alone forever because I smell like fish. Or whatever.
That was tough, yeah. I also think
he's a really sad character.
It's funny how Angus has so much damn riz. Every girl he was talking to in the movie was like, who's this guy?
That was kind of a weird part at the party where you think he's gonna fuck like
her niece.
Her niece. And like they're doing this whole
finger
thing,
painting
then it just
thing.
ends. Yeah, it's this weird and then it gets, sexual finger painting.
And then it gets undercut because Mary is having this whole episode.
Yeah. That was one kind of weird part. I was like, why'd they put that in there?
I mean, I guess it was sort of supposed to be like a young like person experience and to show that he's kind of like immature in this way. And also to like bring up the tones of like sexuality, where he's talking later about it to Paul Giamatti, and Paul Giamatti's like, the contents are pretty spicy or whatever he says, and it's kind of like this like weird.
Your toes curl.
Yeah, this weird old man thing.
When that like weird prostitute comes up to them, and I'm like, oh, it's like a cozy scene of them looking at books, and then this like fucked up crack whore comes up. It's again with the adult stuff coming in.
Right.
I don't know.
It's very...
that was a weird scene, yeah.
That was a weird scene. And again, those scenes kind of exist throughout the movie. But by and large, I think that this was a really fun movie. And it definitely like made me smile. I didn't cry, I don't think, at all during this movie. But it definitely made me feel very warm, especially with all of the... imagery, like the snow imagery and the school in the snow. Cause,
that's what I was thinking after. Yeah. Like I didn't, laugh super hard. I didn't cry super hard, but I did laugh a little, and I did tear up a little, and I felt warm and fuzzy a little. So it was like a nice, well-rounded kind of movie.
Yeah, I would agree.
With like a solid script and characters and everything. Yeah, it was just really well done.
What was your score on Letterboxd? What'd you give it?
Yeah, I'll go score it after this. I was torn between like a 3.5 and a 4. I think if Angus Tully was like better, it would be like a immediate 4 for me. I think I'm still gonna give it like a low 4. It's a really solid movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't amazing, but it was really solid.
I think I would also probably give it a 4 just because it made me feel really nice. And like, I was tired when the movie started. I started at like 1 a.m. But like, I stayed up throughout the whole movie, and I was like very engaged throughout, even though, not a ton happens in the movie because it's over the span of like 2 weeks, I think. But it still made me feel really nice about the whole thing. So I did enjoy it enough. So I think I would probably give it a 4. All right.
Okay, my turn.
Yeah.
My turn. So now we're going into Anatomy of a Fall, which you just watched today, right?
Yeah, I finished it probably like 8 hours ago, maybe.
Yeah, and I watched it last afternoon. Yeah, so we're pretty fresh on this one. This is a thinker a little bit. Yeah. I've had a day to think about it. You've had a few hours. I mean, yeah, what do you think about it? What are your first impressions? Because it sounded like they were not stellar.
I don't know. I think that this movie was... So first of all, the overall runtime, this is a 2.5 hour long movie.
2.5.
So that was definitely like a lot to kind of accept, because I was really bored
I can't fathom that information.
I was really bored throughout probably maybe the first like hour or so. Like everything after the inciting incident, like that first hour of content is just not super engaging to me. When they moved into the courtroom, I was like, oh, we're getting somewhere. Oh, perhaps this is about to like do something with its time. And I really liked that part of it, because it felt sort of like both sides bring up very valid points and sort of this ambiguous, like no one really knows and we're never ever going to really know. But like I thought that both prosecuting and defending sides did a very good job of like laying out the anatomy of this fall, if you will. So, that part was really interesting. I think that the ending being like really ambiguous, where you don't really know what happens, is also like a a good like commentary on how justice is, or I like the whole like ending scene when she says like, when you lose, it's the worst thing that could happen, but if you win, like it's kind of empty, like nothing, you don't really get anything. I liked that kind
go
of
back to normal.
Yeah, I liked that kind of sort of like she felt like it didn't really feel like anything. But yeah, I mean, the whole movie, I thought that she did it, and then they were like, actually, we'll never know. And I was like, okay. Didn't love that ending, but overall, like the movie, like is objectively very good. But I think just subjectively, it's not what I find most like satisfying from an ending. But there were a couple really good scenes, and we'll probably talk about them.
But I totally get being bored for a lot of this. For me, I fucking loved this movie. I'll say, I was like just rapt attention for pretty much the whole thing. I mean, I do love true crime, and I've been telling you to watch 12 Angry Men. There's a lot of that in here, obviously, with the courtroom procedural stuff.
Yeah.
But I think also, because this adds like the human element to it too, and all the scenes of dialogue are there's so many layers to them.
Yeah.
Because just like the courtroom, you have like the words people are actually saying, but then you have like their ulterior motives that and then they're like, as they're talking, they're both kind of trying to figure out what each other are thinking or might already know. So like all the dialogue scenes were so like intricate.
No, I get what you're saying. I think that, yeah, it was written really well, and the performances from both Sandra's character and Daniel's character are really good.
That is the craziest on-screen fight I've ever seen, argument I've ever seen.
That scene was so good. I remember like my girlfriend got home right as that scene ended, and I was like, this movie has been so boring, and it just got like crazy good.
The shit that they're saying is like so real.
Yeah.
With like creatives and like giving people time in relationships, and then she comes out with the like, oh, you're just a fucking like, you don't have any good ideas or whatever she says, like you can't finish any of your ideas, so I just took them and fucking did them myself. And then he's like, you're a fucking monster and you do this every time. It's like, damn, these guys are getting crazy now.
And I liked that it started in the flashback, or it started in the courtroom and then went to the flashback, and then it cut back to the jury listening to the audio recording back in the courtroom, especially for like the physical altercation, to keep that ambiguity alive and to not really like say one way or another like who the aggressor of the actual like physical fight was. And I don't know, I saw a lot of people online saying that like Samuel was the problem. And I don't know if I agree with that, because I think that Sandra was a big reason that
that's the great thing.
The fight was happening.
Because the dialogue and like the problems that they're talking about, especially in that scene, are like so realistic.
Yeah.
And you can totally see both sides. You can, because he's like, oh, I'm suffocated and I'm feeling controlled and I don't know how to get my life on track.
Right.
And she's acting kind of bitchy, like, you did this to yourself.
Right.
Like,
which, I mean, like,
my hands are clean.
It is true that he did it to himself, because like he's the one who chose to homeschool Daniel, and like that was like his choice. But I do agree that like it's a very realistic argument, and it feels like you shouldn't even be seeing this. It's like this should be happening behind closed doors. This is like way too real.
Yeah, I was thinking last time I saw shit like that was in Marriage Story.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have not seen it, but I've seen like that one scene. Yeah.
Where he punches the wall.
Where he punches the wall. Yeah, and it became a meme for a while. Yeah.
It was a good scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Sandra Huller doesn't win Best Actress, or the kid doesn't win Best Child Actor or whatever, I'm gonna be so mad, because they were both amazing in it. And the dog.
Yes, everybody in fucking Letterboxd is talking about the damn dog. Like,
how did they do that scene where he throws up?
It was definitely.
How the fuck did they?
It was definitely a prosthetic. It was a practical effect, like dog
Yeah, like a fake
made.
dog,
Yeah,
but it
that
looks
was not a real
so
dog.
real.
It looked really real, but that was not a real dog.
Yeah, I was like pausing it, like, is that a fake dog?
I'm pretty sure it was a fake dog for the throwing up part, at least, because the throwing up also like wasn't a lot of throw up. So I was like, did he really throw up the aspirin? But whatever.
The shot where he throws up is like half a second long, and then cut away. I'm like, okay, so that was fake dog.
They probably couldn't get it to look very good, but yes. I mean, like, when that whole thing was happening, I was like, is he poisoning his fucking dog? What the hell? And then, he did. And I was like, why did you do that? And then he explained it, and I was like, okay, like, I get it, I guess. Like, you're a kid, and you're dumb, and you don't really know how, like, shit works. But
what do you mean?
Like,
I got it after he explained it.
Yeah, I got it after he explained it, but it was fucking dumb. Why'd you risk your dog's life to do that shit again? Like, to confirm, just Google can a dog, like, what happens when a dog takes aspirin, and then you'll figure it out.
Oh, he's gonna Google, Liam?
He can use a voice.
He's gonna type it in and then read the webpage on his smartphone?
He can use a voice. He had an iPad. It was shown earlier in the movie. Just talking to your iPad. Hold the button down.
No, because he was having a crisis on if he could believe his mom. What the fuck did you just say?
Whatever.
He was having a crisis of conscience on if he could trust what his mom was saying or if his mom's a fucking murderer. So he had to be like, did he eat that throw up or not, bro?
I mean, like, I don't know.
And then the ending when the weird, like his little handler, when his babysitter's like, sometimes you just gotta like trick yourself into believing, and he's like, bet I'm gonna make up this story. Maybe it's ambiguous. If I made up this story about my dad saying he was gonna kill himself.
Do you think that was a made up story?
I think that was a made up story.
Huh.
Which is cool.
Which is
cooler because then it means that he took it into his own hands and he made the decision to lie in court.
I didn't even think about I just assumed that story was real. I was at the jury. I was like, yeah, I quit her.
No, that's a great part because he's like, yeah, you just gotta fucking make yourself believe sometimes.
One more thing I will say about this movie is that I really do enjoy the way that it was filmed. I mentioned the scene with Daniel and the two lawyers that I thought was really cool. But there's a lot of like almost like found footage in this movie. Like it is really interesting how much they use, like when they're doing like the reenactment scene or when they're doing like the interview, they use a lot of footage like from the camera that is in the investigation. So like it's like super overexposed in the back, or there's like they're trying to do like a lot of like the media shots they would do with like the reporters on like the courthouse steps. Like, as like a news videographer myself, like I thought that was really interesting to see, and like how that was very realistic. So I did enjoy like those camera angles and the way that the movie was presented. And like to me, I just didn't think that, I thought that the story was kind of like so slowly parsed out and given to you over such a long period of time that it felt like it wasn't really like it wasn't as engaging as I was expecting or hoping it to be. And it was also kind of presented as like, at first it's like a whodunit. And then it sort of like just devolves into like, well, I guess we're never going to know. And I was like, okay, like that wasn't the most satisfying ending. I get that's like probably the point of it, but just wasn't the thing that I enjoyed the most about it.
Yeah, I was fine with that coming off of like other courtroom procedural stuff because the family drama is like so strong and that's a great thing about it is you keep going back and forth. We're like, oh yeah, that's a good point, prosecutor. Oh wait, but that's another really good point, defendant. Now that you put it like that, and so you can kind of
I don't know. I guess I was just like, I get like that like presenting the two of them back to back was like a good way to like show the story. I just feel like I was torn so much in between the two different like parts, two different like types of movie that was being shown. Like there was like this really intense, sick marital drama that I feel like got like one incredible scene and then like a couple other ones that were not like as strong, and the courtroom is like pretty consistent throughout, but it feels like almost like two different movies that are being like cut back and forth between, which is fine. And
it's a courtroom procedural and a family drama.
And a courtroom procedural is not going to be the most like engaging thing
that
to
shit
begin
is sick,
with.
bro. You ever watch fucking true crime court hearings? Yeah,
a couple times.
It's awesome.
It's not personally my thing, I don't think.
This was like a real case where this woman who was a writer killed her husband because she wanted the insurance money so she could go write more. And then she had to testify. And she was like, oh, he was a great guy. I killed him. But it was crazy. And it made me think of that because I like true crime.
Yeah.
It was like that.
I don't know. I'm also just not I'm not a big true crime fan, so that like that didn't really grab me. I think objectively, I liked this movie. I thought it was really well done, like as a movie. Personally, for me, I did not enjoy it as much as other people did.
I liked the one good scene.
I liked the one good scene.
The stuff around that, take it or leave it, you know.
Honestly, if they fucking put that scene up as like a short film, I'd be like, that shit's fucking gas, bro. Just leave me with that.
Best actor.
Because that scene, like, I legitimately was like the most engaged I'd been throughout the whole movie, and then they went back to being in the courtroom stuff, and I was like, all right, you lost me again.
What would you rate it?
I am gonna give this 3.5 stars.
Okay.
Are you gonna give it a 5?
I might could.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe 5 on a second viewing. I'm not gonna watch it for a while because it's 2.5 fucking hours.
Yeah,
but
I'm probably not gonna watch this again.
It's like a high 4.5 right now. I loved this movie. And if you like true crime, hit up Anatomy of a Fall. That's all I'll say.